I'd like to call this meeting to order. I have the notice of this meeting, has been provided in 2 newspapers, posted on the bulletin board of City Hall, and on the doors of the 3 schools as required in the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, and as amended by PL 2020, Chapter 11. Please rise for the flag salute. Mr. Chico, if you can lead us in the flag salute, please.
Allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Mr. Conover.
Here.
Mrs. DeChico.
Here.
Dr. Dalton.
Here.
Dr. Myers. Mrs. Samuelson.
Here.
Mr. Sweeter.
Here.
Mrs. Law.
Here.
And Mrs. Endicott.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from our November 19th meeting, both the regular session as well as the executive session, please?
Motion, DeChico.
Thank you.
Second, Samuelson.
Thank you. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Dr. Dalton.
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter.
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson.
Yes.
Mrs. Lau.
Yes.
And Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. Okay, at this time, I would like to open the meeting to the public for agenda items only, please. And for those of you at home, you'd like to call in, call the number on your screen. And again, this open meeting public forum is for agenda items only, please. I will give it another minute. Okay, at this time, hearing nothing from the public, public comment is closed. Moving on to presentations. We have staff recognition this evening. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Carnier.
I really wish I had a bigger arena to do this in, but I wanted to take an opportunity to recognize Mrs. Julia Lindsay. If you can join me. Yay! Round of applause. So, Mrs. Lindsay, last time I did this, I didn't realize I was. We're looking there. All right. So Mrs. Lindsay was actually nominated as Exemplary Educator of the Year And not only does she do a lot of wonderful things for our preschoolers, but she also does a lot of wonderful things in the community. And we're so proud of you and this recognition. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to have the certificate. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it. All right, so smile. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you. Again, congratulations. Okay, moving on to recognition of our Board of Education member who is participating with us virtually, Mr. Conover. We'd like to recognize him for his 6 years of service to the Summers Point Board of Education. Mr. Conover was elected on 2 different occasions for 2 terms. He chose not to seek re-election this year, but we certainly do appreciate his service. Mr. Conover was born and raised in Summers Point, attended school right here in Jordan Road. Left for a little while, like we all do, but then came back home to Summers Point to start his life, joined the police academy, and has been a public servant, protecting us right here in Summers Point. And joined the board 6 years ago. He ran for election and has served as a board member at a time when he didn't even have children. Now he has 2 little ones, and did not seek re-election, but we want to recognize him and thank him for all of his efforts and all his service that he has provided to us as well as our district. Thank you very much, Mr. Conover. I wish you were here in person.
Thank you, Mr. Conover.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to communications, superintendent's report. And I have a motion to approve items 5A through D, please.
Motion, Dalton.
Thank you.
Second, Lot.
Thank you. Any questions? And roll call, please.
Dr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico?
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mrs. Laut?
Yes.
Mrs. Endicott?
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. Moving on to item 6A through C. I have a motion to approve item 6A through C.
Motion, Samuelson.
Second, DeChico?
Thank you. Since this is correspondence, has this information been, I'm talking about the NutriServe information, has that been shared, or would you like me I'll say it right now as well, that the free school meals have been extended. They were extended until December 31st, but now we just got word that they're extended until the end of the year. So all families are eligible to receive free meals for their students. This meeting to just give that as an additional shout out.
Can we also give a shout out that tonight is a pickup night till 7 o'clock at Dawes and at Jordan, but next week on Tuesday, there'll be meals that are going to be hand delivered. We're going to cover the entire winter break We don't get paid for weekends, but we do get paid for the days that would have been school days that we're going to put in for. So we'll be actually delivering to 800 students meals to cover for the entire holiday break.
Okay, I was gonna ask about that. So are you guys just delivering to every student household?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how you were.
Yep.
Okay, so.
We are going to attempt to canvass all of Summers Point.
Okay, so for
Maybe.
those that are home watching, their pickup is still available tonight at Dawes and Jordan until 7 p.m. So again, if you have a child, you are entitled to 3 meals, and it is extended until the end of the school year. So you can come tonight, pick up this week, but because of the holiday season and the schedule for next week, the normal pickup will not occur. It will be delivered to everyone on Tuesday.
Right, and also we are an open school, which means that anyone under the age of 18 is eligible to come and pick up food at any time during our pickup drives, either at Dawes or Jordan. Don't necessarily have to go to Summers Point School. If you go to a charter school, if you're your choice, if you go to a non-public school.
If your child if you live in Summers Point, but your child goes to mainland, you're still going to pick up for that child?
Under 18 years of age, 18 years or under, you're eligible to come and pick up. And we do a tally sheet. For the families that do come to Summers Point schools, we do mark them down. But if you're out of district, like going out of district somewhere, mainland or Principal Academy, which we have some children that go to, they're eligible to come also. Okay.
Taking advantage of the meal distribution. Okay, then roll call.
Yes. I apologize. I don't have my list there. Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico?
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson?
Yes.
Dr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter?
Yes.
Mrs. Lott?
Yes.
And Mrs. Endicott?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion approved. Okay, moving on to committee reports. Mrs. Walsh, Student and Community Affairs.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good. Okay, so the committee met on Monday, December the 7th. Mr. Philip Polito presented a proposal for the Summers Point Junior Play as well as the Spring Summer Play. His presentation included the history of the school play dating back to 2005, how our plays have evolved to authentic theater experiences over the years, gaining recognition both locally and from outside theater organizations. He included plans of how the play could be performed for both in-person and virtual shows when possible. Stipends were discussed, as well as job responsibilities for directors and play staff. The committee discussed the absorption of the theater department that was previously managed by our CER department back to the school district. He included projected budgets and of course, all of this would be negotiated with the SPEA and the negotiations committee. We also talked about resuming activities virtually and in person when possible, and the necessity at this time to approve activities case by case in accordance with restrictions due to the pandemic. Resuming athletics was discussed as well, but can only be considered once we move into stage 3 of our reopening. The committee recognizes that our sports, as well as all of our student activities, are more than important right now, and we will continue to meet and discuss how to bring our programs back to the students of Summers Point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Walsh. Instruction committee, Mrs. Samuelson.
Yes, we met on Tuesday, December 1st. One of the first agenda items was discussing the temporary changes to the report cards. There were some changes made to better reflect what goes on in virtual and hybrid learning environments. We received at that meeting the announcement of Miss Lindsay as the 2020 New Jersey Exemplary Educator, which was exciting. I'm glad she was able to come tonight. And we also asked for an update on virtual learning as we've now transitioned to some remote learning. And the day is a mix of synchronous, which is live, and asynchronous, which is not live. And the time varies by the grade level.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Samuelson. Finance, Mr. Streeter.
We met on December 1st. First agenda item was the transition to IEP Direct, which was recommended by the special ed team as well as the superintendent and the business administrator to get better speed and efficiencies than the on-course system has for a special ed module that's included in it. So they'd like to do a rollover to the IEP Direct starting in this after the new year, and basically do a transition time out of on-course, the existing one, into the new program so that they have good continuity moving from one product to the other and be able to have the reporting in order for next October's ASSA reporting. Second item was the Jordan Road chiller update. Basically, they received the bids. They're going to be back and they're going to put it out on the street for bidding the first week of January, right after the reorganization time period. As like all other districts in New Jersey, audits are coming very slow for each school system across. They had their preliminary audit earlier this week, and starting on that, and basically they got good feedback today. I'd probably like to have Michelle highlight that, since that became a hot topic for the agenda tonight as an additional addendum that Michelle added to the agenda tonight. Maybe Michelle, you want to comment on that?
You want to start first? We received a call from our auditors who are finalizing our audit. They were waiting for a lot of documentation from the state. And one of the things that they are making a recommendation for is that our excess fund balance, which is fund balance that's carried over from one year to the next, their recommendation is to put more monies into our capital and maintenance reserve for items that we have on the table. Since last year, the 1920 school year, there were a number of issues, challenges that came up as far as receiving additional aid from the state as far as CARES money, which came in close to 370. We just found out we got 20,000 more for this year, as well as other items. There was no transportation, so our transportation costs were lower. We had no substitute charges because our substitute costs were from March to the end of June were very low. So as we've indicated in the document that we sent out today, that they're making a recommendation that we put additional monies into the reserve accounts. Will not hurt the budget at all that we're dealing with now, this year and next year, so that we can do a replacement of the Dawes roof, which is going to be needed to be done within 1 to 3 years, as well as doing some additional maintenance work on our boilers and our HVAC, getting everything up to par, making sure everything's being done correctly with the preventive maintenance with regards to that. As well as here in Jordan Road, it's always been a desire to have 2 lunch lines so that the students have more time to eat once we go back to normal, rather than standing in line for one cashier. I know my children, they wouldn't stand in line, so when they were going to school in high school, so they chose to take their lunch. Well, we'd like to have them buy lunch from us. It works well for us. So there's a couple capital projects that the school district should get done with regards to the roof, as well as some maintenance projects. So the auditor's recommendation is to make the motion tonight that we added to finance, that we move additional monies into our reserve accounts. Dr. Cry?
And it's also our hope with this additional information that we can actually, not only do the required projects, but that we can, also save positions and possibly help our taxpayers as well. So that's what we're looking to do. And as we move through the next couple of weeks, we'll be using that in the back of our mind to formulate our budget and make sure that we're doing the best we can for our students and for the taxpayers at Summers Point.
Thank you for adding that, Michelle and Michelle. Last item was, of course, the budget. We were trying to basically address as a finance committee just the question about what are possible projections for next year. Noting enrollment is going to be down approximately 46 students to date, and basically where we would be at fiscally for next year. Obviously, the good news is that we got that positive information about the money that's available now that can be rolled into potential future projects that will offset some expenditures in the future. And I guess if there's anything else that Michelle want to add regarding that aspect to it, or do you want to basically move on?
We are down 47 students from last year's application for state school aid. I just got an email saying, is this really true? Yeah, we are down. We've gone over the numbers with Mr. Straka and the Encore system, and we had the teachers sign off on everyone that was in a classroom, whether they were remote or whether they were coming to school on a hybrid system. We have lost students, and that'll have an impact on our state aid coming out to us. Not sure what that will be. Since the audits are being done so late, we now have a delivery date of February for our audits. Our state aid is supposed to come out in February. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Department of Ed and the Department of Finance are able to do that. But the one thing I did want to go back to the excess surplus is also, we knew we had to get computers for our children. We knew we had to get iPads for our children. And that's where the CARES Act came into play. Mr. Straka had monies budgeted. We knew that it was coming along a little bit, so we were saving some money for that. But however, the CARES program has really offset a lot of those costs so that we're able to not only have one-to-one for every child, but also get some in reserve now so that if one breaks, we'll have them there and we don't have to have someone wait a day or two. Mr. Straka and Mr. Darren Johnson? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's Johnson. We have a couple Johnsons. They're going to be working on that, getting that ready, as well as looking at getting some additional support to our teachers, our faculty that we need. But yeah, we're down 47 students this year. So even though we get preschool children, they're funded differently than our K through 8 students. We did have 50-some 3- and 4-year-old students that were registered. We should have more, and I think because of the pandemic, that's why our numbers are low in our preschool program, which we would like to bolster next year if we're back into a regular schedule. But for K to 8th grade, we are down the 47 students.
Thank you. That ends the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeter. Negotiations?
Stacy, I had a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Michelle, are you able to tell us how many 3- to 4-year-olds that were registered for pre-K, how many were showing out-of-town addresses as they were paying tuition to come?
Because we're a 3- and a 4-year-old program, this year we were not allowed to take any tuition students. Right. Last year we were able to take the children of some of our staff, as well as some out of town students. We didn't have many, if I remember correctly. But because we're a 3- and 4-year-old year program that's completely funded through the PEA, preschool expansion aid. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
And currently, Mr. Conover, we have 22 3-year-olds and 48 4-year-olds.
Okay, so not one child in any of the pre-K programs is from out of district.
No, they don't have an out-of-district address.
Okay.
I will put it that way, that the addresses that we have on file that have been certified when they come and register their students, their children, are all from Summers Point.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
I have a question. So once we get over this pandemic and school is sort of back to normal, do you expect to capture all 47 students that are gone, or capture a large portion of it, or you really don't know that right now?
I think we'll capture some that'll come back.
Yeah.
But I do know that from the transfer information that the secretaries receive when they have to send out the transfer
Paperwork.
cards and their pupil folders, that there were a number of them that were transferred to out of state, couple to Texas, couple to Florida. Will they be coming back? Those I wouldn't bank on, but students that are going to maybe a non-public because of the availability of the amount of time that their children can be in school, and you're a working parent or you're working parents and you just needed something, we may capture some of them back. We'll certainly see as we get into April and May as to whether that will happen or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? No?
Very, very, very good job there, Dr. Romer.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, negotiations?
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Negotiations.
Once again, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, negotiations?
Oh, negotiations? Basically, we did not meet. We plan to meet as soon as possible. We've been trying to get the committee together to have a meeting right away. That's all, basically.
Okay. Foundation for Education?
Foundation for Education. I did not attend the last meeting. I was not available. However, I know that they did have a vendor fair on Saturday, 11/28, after Black Friday. I don't know if anybody from the board was able to attend, or Michelle. I don't know if Michelle Carney-Ray was able to attend.
I was, and actually it went really well. They had some vendors that wound up not showing up. But on the whole, they had a pretty good turnout for a first event that they've done like that, where people paid for their table and they sold their wares. I know that there's a lot of revisions that we obviously plan on making for the future, but they felt that it was successful and it was something that was easy to put together with only a couple volunteers. So I know that they're planning on trying to do more events like that are, more easily put together. So that's, but it was very successful, and they're going to be meeting soon again to plan some future events.
And I know too that they want to do some virtual events, also additional virtual events, which are in the planning stages too. Because
Yes.
I wasn't at that meeting, I'm not sure where they got with they have a major capital campaign they want to do virtually this year also.
Correct. They've worked out their Venmo and everything like that, and they're working on their capital campaign as we speak. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Streeter. And moving on, City Council Liaison, I have no new information to report at this time. Okay, moving on to agreements, applications, and contracts. I have a motion to approve items 8A through C, please.
Motion, Samuelson.
Second, Dalton.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the QSEC self-assessment. I know that there's new news in terms of the state granting a deadline for QSEC. So do we still have to? So we're motioning saying we're we're still submitting it, or are we waiting?
We still have to submit the self-assessment and the resolution that it's been approved to submit, et cetera, like all the initial paperwork. But it was actually the QSEC bill passed both houses unanimously, 40-0 in the Senate and 79-0 in the Assembly. Assemblyman Shivarati was the one that led the charge on that one, and they're now waiting for the governor to sign the bill. Once that happens, things will be put on hold for those districts that were up this year for QSAC, and will be postponed. My understanding is it will be postponed for 4 years, but I'm going to find out more details on that once I know the bill's been passed.
Okay, so we still have to motion to approve.
Correct.
Submit it even if they give the extension.
Correct, yeah, just because we still need to submit it as if we were going through the process because of the late time of the bill on the floor.
Got it. And so what we're waiting is for Governor Murphy, since, sent that letter, I'm thinking we're gonna be good.
A lot of districts around the state have sent something similar. So I think I was told today by the assembly lead for my association that it's a done deal. So we're just waiting for the signature.
So we are hopeful that it will.
Very hopeful.
It will be signed by the governor. Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, can I roll call, please?
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. DeChico,
Yes.
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mrs. Lott,
Yes.
and Mrs. Endicott.
Yes. Thank you. Motion approves. Okay, moving on to curriculum. I have a motion to approve items 9A through D, please.
Motion, Lot.
Second, DeChico?
Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question about 9C. Are we basically saying that we recognize that we'd like to absorb the Summers Point Theater program into the schools, other programs for activities, et cetera? But we're also, the only question I had was because there's no proposal attached to it anymore. So I take it that that's being tabled for now until for discussion for items on slide 51 that the proposal included, which were questions for the board that I did not hear discussed yet with the board. Is that correct?
Correct. It's just to acknowledge the fact that we're going to have a theater program, and then the rest of the information needs to be negotiated with the negotiations committee, and that's a completely different sidebar situation. But we want to make sure that the community knows that we have every intention on having our plays start back up as soon as we're able to, and it's safe to do so.
Thank you for confirming that, Michelle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I think the timing of how everything worked out when we made as a board those decisions with the CER, there had always been the intention for the plays to continue. And I think just the timing when it happened with our budget last year, when all those changes were being made, and then COVID occurred, and I think the timing was such that it wasn't, we knew that, but I don't think it was communicated of, other people weren't aware of that. So that was always the intention, that even though we had to make those changes with the CEO of our budget last year, that the plays were just sliding to a different line item.
Correct.
Into our budget. That was never something that, we weren't going to have anymore. We just needed to figure out how to fund it differently. So just to add to that. Any other questions? I had a question about the Instructional Coaching Institute. I just wanted to verify this is the institute that was something you had always wanted to participate in, but because of the costs involved, we were never able to, but now we're offering it virtually, so that makes it easier for us to participate.
This is actually something that Dr. Koss had suggested with our coaches, and starting to prep for, future impact to coaching and stuff like that, because we really want to make it a robust position. And she's actually experienced this in person, and it really is a great opportunity to really make sure our coaches are very well trained on, expectations and different things that we need to get done in the district, and skills. So it's exciting to have this opportunity for the staff that are involved.
So how extensive or lengthy is this training?
I'm good. I don't have that information with me right now, Mrs. Endicott. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, I'm just looking at the price per member, so I didn't know if it was like a 3-day training per person. You know what I mean?
It's pretty intensive. My understanding is it's quite a few days training. So, but the people actually there our coaches volunteered to partake in this because they're so interested in learning more about their coaching opportunity.
Okay, when will that training be offered?
As soon as we can get it scheduled.
Okay, but it'll be offered during the school day? It's not something that...
Dr. Koss will work all those details out once we know that they're able to go.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico,
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
and Mrs. Endicott.
Yes. Thank you. Motion approved. I'm sorry, board members, can you hear me better now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you can? Okay, good. I'm sorry about that. Okay, moving on to facilities. We have nothing. Finance. I have a motion to approve items 11A through D, please.
Motion, Samuelson?
Thank you.
Second, DeChico?
Thank you. Any questions? We have roll call, please.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico,
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
and Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Endicott, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to let you know that I just found the information. What your question was about the Coaching Institute, 16 weeks, 4 hours a session, and all after school.
Okay, so it meets like once a week for 16 weeks. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, motion approved.
Okay.
Moving on to personnel. Can I have a motion to approve items 12A through M, please?
Motion, Samuelson?
Second, Lot?
Thank you. Any questions? May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
and I believe Dr. Myers just joined us.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Myers,
Yes.
we'll get you up. Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mrs. DeChico,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
and Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. Okay, under policies, and I have a motion to approve our second reading of the policies listed.
Motion, Dalton.
Thank you.
Second, Myers.
Thank you. Any questions? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mrs. Sachiko,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Dr. Myers,
Yes.
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. And Dr. Carney-Rayoder, you will alert the staff as to these policies, the revised and new policies that the board just approved?
Yes, ma'am. After every second reading, my secretary sends them out to the entire district for review. And it is the expectation that all district policies are reviewed when they are revised.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have nothing in terms of professional services. Can I have a motion to approve items 15, 16, and 17, please?
Motion, Myers.
Thank you.
Second, the Chico?
Thank you. Any questions? May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Myers,
Yes.
Mrs. Sachiko,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Dr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. And can I have a motion to pay the bills for this month, please?
Motion, Samuelson?
Thank you.
Second, Dalton.
Thank you. Dr. Myers, thank you for doing your bills for us this month. Are there any questions? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Sachiko,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeter,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mrs. Samuelson,
Yes.
Dr. Myers,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
and Mrs. Endicott.
Yes, thank you. Motion approved. Okay, moving on to public comment. I'd like to open our meeting up to the public. Any members of the public would like to address the board, do so in person, or if you're at home watching, you can contact us on the number on your screen, which is 927-1032. I'll give it one more minute. Okay, at this time, public comment is now closed. And before we go to executive session, I'm going to just do board forum now. Any members of the board like to speak?
I just wanted to say, this is Dr. Myers, just wanted to say it's been a pleasure. This year is my first year working with all of you, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you, Dr. Myers.
Thank you for that.
I would say the feeling is mutual. Thank you very much. Any other members? I would like to extend happy holidays to the board, Dr. Carnegie Yoder, Dr. Romer, and the rest of the Summers Point District. I hope everybody has a very happy, healthy, and restful break and time with their family. Okay, so at this time, I would like a motion to go into executive to discuss personnel and contracts, as well as our current board member vacancy. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion, Samuelson.
Thank you.
Second, right?
Yes, Ms. Myers. Thank you. Okay, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the City of Summers Point, the County of Atlantic, New Jersey, that upon passage of this resolution, we go into executive session to discuss personnel, contracts, as well as our Board of Education member vacancy. We are in executive. If the public would kindly exit to allow us to continue our meeting, we will let you know when we return to the public portion of our meeting.
Do we have another link for the executive session?
But I can resend it out right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye. Happy holidays.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Heather.
Are we live now? Okay. Do we have all board members back in?
I'm here. It's Alice.
Hi, Alice. Okay, I see Alice. I see Heather. Is Mr. Streeter back?
Yep.
Yep, we're all here.
Thanks, Heather.
No, he's not back.
No, he's not.
A little trouble hearing, guys. Guys in the Summers Point Board of Ed, in the school, I should say.
Okay.
Okay. I just need a motion to adjourn.
You're lying.
Sweet.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion, Samuel.
Thank you.
Sorry, Heather. I'll do
Second.
Who was second?
Alice.
Samuelson and DeChico were the motion.
And Alice. We all second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good night. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Bye. Merry Christmas. Merry
Merry Christmas.